Robert Moves Back is a really good episode, but there is one scene that is absolutely amazing. This is the 25th episode of the third season of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's directed by Brian K. Roberts, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Robert visiting Debra and Ray, and while he was out patrolling, he stopped a car for speeding, and Amy was in that car. She wasn't driving. She was on a date with the driver, and Robert has a lot of feelings about this, but also is unable to express any of them. It's clear that he still cares a lot about Amy, and he has some choice words about the speeding driver as well. And while he's at home, there's a knock at his door, and it's Amy. And she very quickly wants him to know that there were, in her words, no moving violations. She never slept with any of these guys that she'd been on a date with. And they kiss, and it's beautiful, and it's clear that even though time has passed since they broke up, it's almost like no time has passed. They just seem to fit together perfectly immediately. And Amy took Robert to his bedroom. She is finally ready to sleep with, so I'm going to say somebody, that sounded a bit strange, finally ready to sleep with Robert, and poor Chomsky comes scuttling out of the room, which was adorable. And we cut immediately to the following morning. Amy's obviously wearing the same clothes as yesterday, and Robert is walking her to the elevator in his bathrobe, and people from the building walk past them and start to give them some odd remarks. It turns out that Robert has no bedroom curtains, and people could see them having sex. I do feel like they made a big deal out of it. They ended up having a petition to ban Amy from the building, and there are flyers up. That's a bit extreme for somebody having sex one time. That's quite extreme, but nevertheless, Robert is mortified. He can't go home, so he ends up staying with Debra and Ray. But what I love is that Amy wasn't so embarrassed she couldn't be around Robert, and she was actually visiting Robert in the basement. They were behaving like a couple of teenagers, but it was rather sweet. It was going well enough. And then Marie comes over. She comes on. There was no way this was going to work out well for anybody. She comes over with lasagna. She hears Robert. He's not making completely sexual noises. He's more laughing to himself, kind of. But she hears it. It's clear it's Robert. And she goes down the stairs. And she basically comes running back up the stairs, which is so funny. And she screams, "Robbie," and Robert comes running after her. He's just wearing his police shirt. And a couple of seconds later, Amy comes running up. She's just wearing Robert's trousers, but Robert is obviously very, very tall, so they come up to her chest, which is such a comical sight. And then I don't know how they stood there with straight faces. We basically have a line of Marie, Robert, Debra, Ray, and Amy, and it's just so funny. I don't know how they got through the scene without laughing. And then Frank comes in, and his reaction is exactly what you would expect it to be. It's so funny. And I think the scene just goes from strength to strength, because Amy is getting insulted by Marie, and Marie's also insulting Debra, but she's used to this by now. And then Amy says to Debra, sometimes a mother should just butt out, after Marie says that mothers know best, and nobody would dare speak to Marie like that. Even Debra often holds her tongue. We know she has given Marie a piece of her mind occasionally, but that's really bold of Amy. And I think it shows how much she cares about Robert, because she's in this incredibly embarrassing situation. Marie is putting her down, trying to tell Robert she's not the girl for him, but she's willing to do something that clearly would have caused her a lot of embarrassment even further. Although I also think partly she's acting out of anger at being spoken to like that. And it was brilliant, and she just has this little outburst, and she's about to leave, but before she leaves, bearing in mind she's still just wearing the trousers, she turns around to Marie and says, sometimes the noodles in your lasagna are overcooked. And off she goes. And everybody's face, the camera kind of takes a second for each person, and their reactions were just absolutely incredible. And once she's left, Marie says, clearly that's not the girl for you. You understand, Robbie? And Robbie doesn't understand. Robert, still in his shirt, no trousers, leaves and goes after Amy. And it was a really brilliant moment for Robert, for him to finally realise that Mother doesn't always know best, and that actually Amy means a lot to him. Debra kind of stands up to Marie by saying Amy and Robert are great together. She leaves. Eventually Raymond leaves, though he is still kind of scared of Marie. And then Marie leaves, and I feel like the last couple of minutes, maybe not even minutes, but the last couple of seconds are not that entertaining. I think they could have done something a bit different, a little bit better, because Frank sits at the table and he just kind of sits there for a bit and is about to eat the lasagna, then pushes it away, then goes after Marie. And I kind of get what they're getting at, that Frank will always ultimately follow Marie, but at the same time, I think it would have been funnier if he just sat there and tucked into the lasagna. I think that would have been more entertaining. But it's not what happened. And then we end with Robert going into his apartment building. And I have questions. Actually, I've just thought of something, and I'll talk about that in a second. It's him going into the apartment building, bumping into some neighbours. It's fine. The thing that I was about to say is that how did he get home? Because presumably his car keys were in his trousers pocket, and Amy has his trousers. Yes, one could argue he caught up with Amy, but then Amy would have given him his trousers back. Maybe they went back into the house to get Amy's clothes, but again, he would have got his trousers back. So I don't know how he got home. Never mind, I'm overthinking it. I'm definitely overthinking it. It's just a thought that came to me. Either way, I think this is a really good episode, and that scene, the scene in the kitchen, is just perfectly executed. I don't know if there are any bloopers from this season, but I would love to see if there are any bloopers from that. I might have to have a look. Robert Moves Back is a really brilliant episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.